They don't show any signs of humanity, and they're not necessarily in a position to do that. There's no reason they would show any signs of it. The bureaucracy is what runs this place, and it's the bureaucracy that is so stifling, right? The rules that are designed. For example, you get the worst razor to work with. It's a very partial shave you can get out of these cheesy razors they give you, and they don't allow you to have shaving cream because they said somebody once used it to make a slip and slide out in the outdoor walk area there. So now shaving cream is banned, so you get this really awful flat stuff that doesn't work out into a foam or anything like that. So, of course, my toothbrush, for example, is only 2.5 inches long, because when I said, why can't I get a regular toothbrush, they said, well, people filed down toothbrushes and use them as stabbing devices. I said, well, why would they do that when you can use a pen? A pen is like you can order a pen out of the vending machine, and it's a stabbing device right now if you were so inclined. And it was the same reason when I said, why can't I have dental floss? Because I have gingivitis and gum disease. I said, I need dental floss to keep my dental health. And they said, well, people might use it as a noose. I said, first of all, I've never seen that. I've been in many jails and correctional centers, and I've never had floss banned because they thought someone would try and hang themselves with dental floss. But that's the alleged thing here. And so none of their explanations in some ways make sense, right? Perhaps one person in 1,000 might do that, but then they apply that bizarre standard to everybody else in the prison facility here. And like I say, you're presumed innocent until proven guilty in this one, but when you're convicted and made guilty, you get treated a lot better.
Right. So how have you been spending any of the spare time that you have outside of your room?
Well, actually, that's not the challenge. The challenge is what you do in that 18 hours when you're trapped inside your room, or the 20 hours on weekends when you're trapped inside your room, because, that's why I end up getting stuck watching all these bad shows that I'm not into, or listening to PlayStation games that I don't want to hear, in a room that doesn't get any sunlight in it, that has a window that's 3 inches vertical and 3 feet wide, and that has a steel grill on it that has these little holes in it that's supposed to let light in, or at least daylight, but not direct sunlight. You just get the outside light type of thing coming in. And so the challenge is, in fact, so I've ordered the newspapers, and so far I'm getting the Globe and Mail, and I'm waiting for the Vancouver Sun Province and National Post to arrive, and people hopefully will send me some books, and I'm awaiting arrival of those. And I have gotten a couple of letters from Jody so far, and from 2 fellow inmates as well. So, I read those letters, but substantially there's not very much. There's one weight machine here, and I've done that, but that's totally boring. I started doing push-ups and walking around in the outside walk area for at least half an hour a day, at least getting some fresh air, even if the sunlight doesn't get to you. And the reason the sunlight doesn't get to you at high noon is because the walls are 22 foot high in the walking area, so the sun is never above you exactly to a point where you can actually feel the rays of the sun. It makes me think of that song by Sting called Invisible Sun, which is about a prisoner in England or Ireland saying that he never sees the sun, so there must be some invisible sun out there that shines on everyone. It's a great song, by the way, about being in prison. And it makes me think of that all the time. And it's interesting that the vending machines all dispense garbage and crap, and that there's no opportunity to actually get good food. And so there's this constant deprivation of intellectual material, reading material. There's no library here. There's no books to get. You can get a deck of cards, I suppose, but no one actually plays cards here, which is much more common in a correctional center or a detention center or a federal prison.
Right. Now, Mark, we hear a lot about prevalence of gangs in prison. Have you seen any of that kind of stuff? Have you seen any of the pecking order?
There's people here who have done bad things, but I, oddly enough, am in a unit with the mentally handicapped, let's say the bug unit it's called. Most of the people in my range are mentally disturbed or psychologically disturbed, or so they're saying, and I have no reason not to believe them. And I don't actually see, they're never let out at the same time I am. I'm with other people who've done a variety of offenses, or they're accused of stealing or assault or telemarketing fraud or those kind of things, middle-range things, people who are considered not violent. And I certainly have not encountered any of that, and nor have I seen it.
Right.
And in fact, like I say, the inmates have been supportive and actually know who I am, and I'm in the newspapers a lot, so I get treated like politely and friendly by the inmates, so I wouldn't tend to see gangs in my unit. That's more like what you'd see in a detention center or a correctional center or a federal penitentiary, but even then, if you've done any violent acts, you're probably not going to be in a minimum security jail or detention detention center or correctional center. When you're dealing with major crime, they tend to be put together, or even or you could be segregated, like Jamie Bacon is the gang leader of Red Scorpions type of thing. And the reason for that is separated, and they do increase surveillance, so you can't run your gang from the jail type of thing. So that's why all these phone calls are monitored, not by any human being, because there's 500 people in this building. They don't have time to listen to everybody's phone call, but they can record them and play them back, and I'm sure they are to the gang members who might be trying to do business or direct activities, criminal activities from jail. So I don't actually encounter that, so I'm under no threat. The biggest problem, as always, for me would be boredom, and it'll be the same thing when if the Justice Minister signs the extradition, then I am sent to what they call CTAC, pretrial by the Seattle airport, Seattle-Tacoma pretrial, and that's where I'll be for 3 to 6 weeks after the Justice Minister signs those papers, awaiting sentencing, and then I'll be sent to a U.S. federal penitentiary somewhere in the United States. And at that point, I can put in my transfer under the treaty to come back to Canada, and hopefully within a year and a half, 2 years, I'll be back here in Canada and out on day parole, and then ultimately after 2 years, full parole here in Canada. So that's my objective, as I get moved around. And this is a good place for me to kind of experience a certain degree of deprivation, because I'm sure SeaTac is just like this place or worse, and U.S. Federal Penitentiary will be slightly better because you're not locked down quite as much in a minimum security federal penitentiary.
Right. Tell us about the projects you plan to work on while you are locked up.
Well, I've been writing extensively already. I already wrote a list of 100 things people can do to help me in my struggle here to both legalize marijuana and end the marijuana prohibition, as well as get me back to Canada and promote the cause. I've written a lot about what life is like here and sent that to Jody. And I won't begin writing my book, though, until I'm actually in the U.S. federal penitentiary system. It's difficult to feel focused on your life's achievements when you're in these temporary pretrial places. You're more concerned with just getting some mail, getting some books. I mean, even just getting like appropriate shall we say, toiletries and things like that. Like, I don't have any nail clippers, and my nails are going to get long. So nail clippers are coming on Friday. I've ordered some and paid for them today, and they get delivered.
You have 1 minute left to talk.
And then, I have other things like shower slippers coming. The shoes they give you here have no arch support or any kind of, they're terrible, terrible shoes. So I actually bought a pair of running shoes from the canteen for $24, so at least I can exercise and keep my feet in good shape. And you know what? We're only allowed to call. It's 90 cents for a phone call, and it only lasts 30 minutes at the maximum. So I'm going to call you right back shortly. Okay?
Okay, Mark. Sounds good.